This video is the first part of a series where I'm transforming my kind of drab basement in my mid-century modern home into a World Heritage Site. There will be no half measures when it comes to the vision, only the execution. Before we get into the stars of this transformation, the Cork floor and Her Majesty behind me, let me just spend a few minutes giving you a little bit of context about the space. When we saw this house a little over a year ago, the basement honestly looked kind of cute. It had these yellow walls and dark blue floors, and with everything in bloom outside, it was a nice place to be. We casually learned, well, casually meaning me spending a month doing a deep dive into newspaper archives dating back to 1950 to learn every single drop of information I could about the families that lived here before we did. That this basement was likely used as a nursery, so that kind of explained the colors, as well as this huge shelf that kind of looks like a kindergarten storage cubby. Even though those daycare colors were kind of cute, once we moved in, for many months we were using the space as a workshop to rip butcher block and sand and seal those blocks for our kitchen counters. I guess any clout that I get for using the terminology rip to refer to cutting wood is immediately cancelled out by me gloating about it right after. We were down here doing things every single day, really stress testing the place. Like here you can see us doing dry lays for Zalige tiles that we installed upstairs. This behavior from the dog, it will return later in the video, you'll see. We were also spray painting our kitchen cabinets and doors. And so through all of these ordeals, we realized that this blue paint that was sitting directly on top of the concrete floor was, one, uncomfortable to walk on, and two, chipping away left and right. My days and nights were consumed with feverish thoughts about the floor. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I'd be out at dinner with friends or watching a TV show, and all I could think of was floor. My first idea was to use these IKEA patio tiles that we had used outdoors at our old place. Second idea was peel and stick tile, but everything that's available is, to put it mildly, heinous. And then the third idea came learning about Usonian floors. It's a style of flooring that was very popular in mid-century modern homes designed by architects like Frank Lloyd Wright, where you have these huge pillowy red squares that look like enormous tiles, but they're actually just poured concrete mixed with red pigment, and then the lines are etched out with a dowel while the concrete is still setting. I wanted to do this so badly. I had all my measurements, my materials all researched, and I was fueled even more by people telling me that it would be too hard to do and that I should just call a contractor. Call a contractor to me at this point feels like an aggression, even though I was actually internally balking at the thought of all that mess and all the different ways in which it could go wrong with the concrete setting too fast and the floor not being level. I was only finally convinced to let go of the idea when I rented this 300-pound concrete grinder to remove the layer of peeling paint off the floor so that my Usonian floors wouldn't just peel right off with it. And my attempt to use it lasted all of 3 minutes. You can observe my mom's life flashing before her eyes as she watches me try to plant my hip against it to absorb some of the momentum so it wouldn't keep careening off into the drywall. So yeah, since that very first step was such a fail, I had to give up on my dreams of this Usonian floor that would have been so fitting for this house that I care about so much and to which I really just want to do the utmost design justice. But you know what? It was all for the best, because my next idea, it was the Cork floor. Also very classically mid-century modern. The tiles float above whatever base they're on, so they don't care if the paint is peeling. Hell, they don't care if there's a family of alligators waiting around underneath them. They're super affordable, they're soft and warm under the foot. They age really well, like scuffs and scratches just give them a really nice patina. And once they're installed, you coat them with a layer of polyurethane to water and stain proof them. And you end up getting this like seamless floor that really looks like it's just one piece. One of the best parts for me also is that they're super easy to install yourself. Well, easy to install one's self. I am me, so I did struggle, starting with the Herculean effort just to get these boxes from the spot where they were delivered in the driveway down to the basement. And this is the day also that I decide I'm Steven Spielberg. So I'm running around switching the location of the camera between reps like a chicken with my head cut off.
In normal times, that would be about all the work I do in a year.
Right before hitting the floors, I decided was the perfect time to spray paint the entire basement because the windows were gonna get switched out. They were all single paned and the floors were gonna get covered. So this was that rare instance of being able to just spray everything without having to tape at all. And this allowed me to get it done in an afternoon instead of like 2 weeks with a roller and a brush. And while I did save in time and wrist injury, I paid in dignity. And then there's the fact that our windows ended up being delayed by 6 more months. So this place looked like a Teletubby slaughterhouse until one day I couldn't handle the way it looked anymore. And I scraped the paint away with some spray vinegar and this flexible blade that took the paint off like butter. I also temporarily painted this part terracotta red because it's not going to be getting cork. I'm saving the corridor for a secret surprise project later this year. I just wanted it to look decent and not so unfinished in the meantime. Okay, fine. Since you insist, I'm gonna do a huge mosaic over there. And now we are half a year later, the windows have been done, and I cannot put off corking the floor any longer. Today is the day I'm finishing the flooring. In the 5 minutes since I decided though, I made the grave error of doing a quick Google, and people on the internet are telling me that I have to put down an underlayment, which is like this plastic, which is supposed to prevent the moisture from coming up into the cork. That sounds super annoying and very sensorially unpleasant, so I'm gonna politely decline. Should I use this as the underlayment? No. And anyway, these people at iCork Floor Direct, the ones who sold it to me, they didn't say anything about an underlayment in their instructions, which I never read. You are the messenger of God. If it is all right for me to install this cork without an underlayment, you will lick me in the face now. Okay, I had planned to do a thorough sweep and vacuum, but now I'm realizing, why would I do that when I'm covering it up? A lot of these things that I put on my to-do list are for a fictional version of me that wouldn't be trying to cut corners at every possible opportunity. This contraption scares the hell out of me. Slide the board in like this. I'm gonna cut it about halfway. I thought that this was going to be the story of how to install a cork floor, a bit about the tools used to cut the pieces, maybe showing you how the tiles lock together tightly, and just show you some of the trials and tribulations and the indignities of this task. But there's only 2 takeaways you need from this section. First one is this.
I'm bagging up, cause my daddy taught me good. I'm bagging the hell out of there, and I'm like, oh my god.
And the second is this story of the love between a dog and her biological mother. Look at the concern she feels seeing me down here grunting and groaning rather than what she's used to seeing me do all day, which is tapping on my little screen only to switch over to clickety-clack on my bigger screen.
Un momento, baby, por favor. I need to get this in here, so you have to move. Please, may I?
Kindly allow me. Kindly allow me to please.
In this one case, your weight here is not the most helpful. Girl, you cannot stand here.
HQ. I'm going to HQ now. I'm sorry, but HQ. That's a wrap on the floor, and now time for cushions. This idea originally started off humble. I thought I'd just buy a few cushions to set down along this base. And then I thought, okay, why not just make them? That way they're the exact dimensions I want. And then I thought, if I'm gonna make a base, I might as well make a backrest. What am I gonna lay my weary back against a cold wall? And then I thought, if I'm gonna make a backrest, why not make it a statement? Something custom, something very dramatic, very high, all the way to the ceiling. And then I thought, if it's gonna be so custom, why not something modular? Something I can rip off the wall and then use on the floor however I like, and then slap back onto the wall whenever I didn't need it anymore. The dog has left. She does have some instinct for self-preservation. So yeah, that's how I find myself here, carving out 3 California king-sized memory foam mattress toppers into 40 cushions. I briefly toyed around with the idea of making the backrest pieces in some kind of organic interlocking puzzle piece type shape, but I'm actually in the process of formalizing my hatred for puzzles, so I scrapped that idea really fast. I'm gonna just make straightforward square pieces. I think that's a classic and it's satisfying. And given the fabric plans I have, have, I think it's best to keep the structure on the simpler side. So for the base seats, this is 4 inches thick. And for the backrest, these are 2 inches because I'm not working with a lot of depth. I can't lose 4 inches in this direction. Okay, let's get slicing. But actually, before I do that, I'm gonna get rid of this dehumidifier. I don't know where we're gonna put it because it has its dedicated pipe that sends the moisture out of the house, but it's really ugly, so it's gotta go. I shall dehumidify the house with my dry humor. How about that? Okay, and now we can get slicing.
Yeah. Sit. Hey. You throwing shots from afar. I'ma meet you at your front door. So hard to be doing what you really meant for, beauty. But don't I make it look easy? Don't I make it look good? Hey, now you drink up all my liquor. Come on, what I'm supposed to do now? And you talking all that shit. Now come on, you gon' have to back it up.
Get in, loser. We're gonna scavenge some fabrics.
Sugar, come on, I might never come down. I might never come down. Let me get down. Come on, you might never come down. No, let me get down. You might never come down. No, wanna get down.
I realize I've talked about shukas in the last 3 videos that I've made, and I promise I'm not in the pocket of big shuka. Whenever I go home to Nairobi, we go to the Masai market at Diamond Plaza, and my dad negotiates with the lady while I squat down on the side playing with bracelets like a 5-year-old, and then I walk away with a stack of them. If you want to know more about this insanely sturdy and vibrant 100% wool textile, you can Google shuka fabric Kenyan. But just know that any image that you see on screen, including what I'm showing you right now, cannot do justice to the saturation of these colors in real life. This is the pinkest pink. So I made this simulation with little photos of the fabrics and have kind of a rough idea of how I want to arrange these. But now I just want to play with them in real life and make sure I actually like the way it looks. In addition to the shukas, I also have these other fabrics that I think can help with toning things down a bit. My first instinct is to blast the color on all cylinders, but I think what will actually look best is a balance. Okay, so I think I'm learning that I need to keep darker colors away from the bottom row because I want more contrast there. Each of these contributes so vitally to the mission, I feel. I do like my green as a base. Now that I've decided how many of each I'm gonna have and where they're gonna be, I have to start thinking about measuring. Wait, let me go in here for comfort. So for the back wall cushions, those are all 20 by 20 inches and 1 inch seam allowance. That's my and my side ones will be 20 times 8.5. The seam allowance times 2, 18.5 times 2 and 7. Because wait, 10 plus 30, the 10 plus 3, 13.5, and then I have my seam like 1 divided by 2 is 13.5. For the seat cushions, oh, this is where it gets really complicated. Okay, and then I want to make these cute. How is a yard? Should I make my own piping? I think I got it. The time that you've invested so far in this video, do you regret it? So after all that chopping, I have here these 40 bundles of fabric, each containing the top piece, the side strip, and 2 flaps for the back, because there are a few different sizes and orientations to keep track of. I was really determined not to buy any fabric at all, so no scrap was safe, and even this bedspread sacrificed itself to the cause. Watching the footage now of me excitedly picking out the fabrics, I'm like, oh, you poor naive soul. I'm kind of glad I didn't realize how much work this was going to be, and that once I had the fabric all cut up, I couldn't go back and the only way out was through. Because I think I just didn't realize that each step you had to take 40 times. And could the extreme physical exhaustion have something to do with the fact that I was seated here like a duck for the entire project? Yes, it's a resounding yes. But I found that the floor just gave me so much space to spread out and do things methodically in the way that I wanted to. This really is my Winter Olympics. Like, sewing 40 cushions is an endurance sport, both physical and mental, and you gotta go in with strategies. My most successful strategy was to atomize the tasks as much as possible. So, for example, if you're sewing the cushion from start to finish, these are the steps. First, ironing all the pieces, the front piece, the 2 back flaps, and the side strap, and then using chalk to draw out exactly where you're gonna sew. Then you cut out the amount of piping that you need and you attach it to the top piece along the line that you drew. For some of them, I also tried doing the piping on the side strap instead of the fronts and the backs. The results looked quite similar to me. And then you take that side piece and you attach it to the front along the piping, sandwiched in the way that allows the piping to peep through. You then attach the back pieces to one another, overlapping a little bit to make this envelope style opening that you can stuff a cushion into. And then you attach that back piece to the rest of the cushion. So that's a lot of modes to switch to and from. Ironing, measuring, cutting, drawing, sewing, and it's not relaxing at all. You can feel really scattered having to do that so many times. So what I did instead was take this huge pie of steps and break it down into differential slices. Wait, can I say differential like that? I failed calculus, not to brag. So I was there 40 times ironing each type of piece, 40 times chopping my velcro to size, then 40 times peeling it, 40 times assigning the pipings, and so on.
Every step you take, every cut you make, 40 times around and my fingers ache all the same.
And that allowed me to get into a flow state for each task because it's so small and it's so easy, it can become automatic in like 5 goes. Be a more interesting interaction of colors over here. I found this color, which is a pretty good match with the green that's in here. That bit has been missing since we moved in, and it is the portal to another dimension where a rat lives, and so it's gotta get covered up. I searched our cave of horrors, aka storage room, and I think this door will work quite well. All I need to do is remove the handle, not even the hinges, actually. I don't even need to get rid of those. Good enough for me. I am so much better behaved on camera. Were it not for you guys, not only would I not have this place taped up, I would probably not be using a brush. I would be applying the paint to my hands and spreading it out over the bench like lotion. You know what? I know a method even more effective than any of this. Are you ready? I had to really drag myself across the finish line with these. Look at you, yeah. Sure, yeah, no. But now today, I finally get to tell these cushions to stuff it. And the most terrifying question of all is, was it worth it? I am a little worried about whether they're gonna actually fit. Like, you saw my calculation process. So I have my handy box cutter here on standby to do any slicing if necessary. And I'm also very willing to adjust my definition of what is a satisfactory outcome. One point of solace is that I did make sure to dig my heels in and repeat my mistakes across every single one, not making any improvements throughout the process. So whatever flaws exist will hopefully exist uniformly across the entire cohort. But yeah, depending on how this goes, I'm gonna be either ecstatic or I'm gonna be throwing a fit because they don't fit. I got stressed that it was looking so loose in there, and I'd forgotten that I had cut 2 pieces to put in each one of these cube cushions. It's so useful having the memory of a goldfish. Your past self gets to delight you by having already thought of things.
School beans, that's a whole lot of reefer. Let me help you with the pre-roll. You drink up all my liquor. Come on, what I'm supposed to do now?
This video is not a flooring tutorial. It's certainly not a sewing tutorial. But what it is a masterclass in the skill, no, the art of deluding yourself into believing that whatever the outcome is, that was your intention from the start. Please observe keenly as I demonstrate. Wow, yes, I love it. I wanted these edges to be organic in shape and for the cushion to not fill it out entirely. It's exactly as I intended. Ooh, I can't believe I managed to achieve this super cool look where the piping in the corners is engulfed only to reappear as you turn the corner. Artful. Good job, me. So stylish, these ripples along the edge that I'd planned all along. We love interesting draping in unexpected places. The eye yearns for texture. But honestly, I'm really pleased with these. I think each one has a very distinct personality. This one's totally a Gabriella. And this one with the gold piping, that's a Nicole. There's a Sophia, Maria, Dalia, no? And this one's Janine. I'd initially planned to have all the sides match the front, so have them be the same fabric, but then I made a game time decision to shuffle them around, and I'm so glad I did. With the piping, they look almost 2D. They remind me of the pop art style from the 1950s, like Andy Warhol and what's that guy? Lichtenstein, with the bright colors and thick outlines, kind of comic book style. Maybe this is my version of the Campbell soup exhibit. Moma, you want this? Here, I even wrote you a description. I call this piece Wall Taken Down. 40 shuka-clad cushions assemble into a chromatic grid of workhorse fabric, repurposed into a domestic monument. The installation treats permanence as optional and use as sacred. Each square can be lifted away at any moment and deployed as a floor cushion, then returned to restore the composition. The geometry is aspirational. Minute shifts in seam and orthogonality operate as a knowing signature of the hand, a reminder that this is not a product of mass manufacture, but an archive of tender labor and exploration. 4 cushions remain untethered and arranged along a bench for use as a soft headrest, an intentionally gentle refusal of hostile architecture. In the end, it's just 40 squares again and again until the image breaks, because the cushions leave the wall and enter the room. Everything is holding securely. The measurements weren't as catastrophic as I thought. I have a few preliminary ideas for styling. While I was working on this project, I found this beautiful table on Facebook Marketplace with these tortoise shell colored heart tiles. The guy selling it to me said his parents bought it in the 1950s, so that makes it very fitting for this house. You already recognize this guy because I immediately started using him as my sewing table for this entire process. It came with shorter legs to use as a low coffee table, so I just replaced those with longer ones. Extra dining table chair that could work here? No. Too bulky. We'll find something else. I know that I want to further soften up this space with the rugs. They're not going to be these ones. These are just ones from upstairs that are light enough for me to drag down. This video is blessed to be graced with this Persian rug that our friends brought us from home. It's the single most beautiful possession I or anyone else has ever owned. And I stole this art piece from my bedroom. I just want to see what the vibe will be like with rugs, especially if I were to have pattern in whatever future rug I get for here. Will it clash? Will it complement? I'm also just very curious always about rug layering. Don't judge me, I'm trying to figure out a vibe. This is good for the time being. Fine, I will fix this wobbly table. I can't believe the transformation this place has seen. Like even just with the cork done, I stopped feeling as much trepidation coming down the stairs. But now, seeing everything starting to come together, I'm actually excited to head down here. And this is just the start. For my next few projects, I'm going to build out some steps over here to be able to climb out through this window, especially during the summer when we're using the pool a bunch. I want something really beautiful, maybe painted or tiled.
Unless, of course, that's against my township's rules, in which case I won't do it.
My very next project is going to be building doors for this pretty messy shelf that we have here right now. I'm going to use plywood and mirror and resin to make something super colorful that still reflects the outside and opens up the space even more. And then of course there's my top secret mosaic plan for this hallway. Don't tell anyone about it. I want to make some colorful curtains for the window. And the absolute most important thing is lighting. I believe that every room needs to have a minimum of 10 small light sources in order to feel optimally cozy. So that's a lot of lamps to create. I've also briefly considered the possibility of plywood panels on the ceiling, but I don't know if that's going to darken up the space. With the amount of light it gets, maybe it can afford it. I don't know. But this is a good start.
We are your descendants from the year 3026. The moisture was no problem. There was no need for underlayment. We thank you for a great installation.